Hello, welcome everybody to this webinar. Let's just give it a couple of minutes to let the remaining people log on. So I'll start in a few minutes. So hello again, everybody. It's been a couple of minutes now, and I think I'll start the webinar, and people will probably log on as we go along. First of all, welcome to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are on the planet at the moment. Today, my name is Kai Arne Smeby Lerstad. I'm a department manager at Global Maritime in Stavanger, Norway. And Dag Leo Emblemsvåg will give a presentation of our DP management system that we have developed in cooperation with Unici. The presentation today will first consist of a few slides just explaining the process and how we came up with this, and then we will show a demonstration video, and then we will have a few slides afterwards. In addition, we will have a Q&A session. Our aim is to answer all the questions that might arise from you, so please feel free to write in your questions in the chat box. Further on, we have also prepared a few questions that we often meet from clients and other when we are presenting this. So let's get on with it. So in the spring of 2018, early spring 2018, Global Maritime saw that we're in the need of developing a digitalized version of our annual trials program. So the main goal behind this was to reduce the time and cost of trials. We wanted to have a more streamlined, tailor-made digital platform for the future. We felt that by doing this, we could improve trials assurance compared to the current solution we had, a paper-based solution. We wanted also to involve the crew more in the testing, and provide this service worldwide from our local offices, and at least we had to be as a minimum IMCA M190 compliant. The process started actually with a dedicated ship owner in Solstad and Unisea that we identified as a very good partner, because that gave us the possibility of doing this without adding further hardware on board already existing vessels. And Unisea, they are represented on a majority of the vessels, at least in the North Sea, and they are also very well represented worldwide on the vessels. Furthermore, our rapid development was key in order for us to be able to meet market, expectations, and also expectations from our owner. I'll show you a timeline in a slide or two down, and you will see how rapid the development actually was. During the process, we also saw that what started out as being a tool for conducting the annual DP trials actually ended up to be much more than that. We ended up with a DP management system, which you will be able to see in the video we are going to show you soon. Also part of the process was to decide who should do what with regards to the testing, and this has a very close link to IMCA M190 and more specific section 4.9. What we ended up with was that the GM auditor would do redundancy tests that were critical to redundancy, critical to positioning, the DP control system tests, and performance and functionality. While the crew on board, we would let them do the test with low criticality, single component testing, detection of failure on components, and minor performance and functionality. You will be getting a more in-depth presentation of how exactly this is distributed and how this is done in the video later. I mentioned earlier about the timeline and the rapid development that we were basically very much dependent on. So the idea was conceived in April 2018, and it more or less started over a beer, actually. During the time between April 18 and June 18, we had a very, rapid meeting activity with both Solstad and Unisea. And in June 2018, the prototype was actually starting to be developed. The benefit of using Unisea was that several parts of the module that we have made has been built on components Unisea already have in their system. So from June on, the module was developed, and then we did the first pilot test on a Solstad vessel in September 2018. So from idea to first pilot, we were talking about only 5 months. The first fleet contract was then signed in October after a successful pilot testing, and the contract was signed for the whole fleet of Solstad in around 100 vessels in service. The module and the first trials was rolled out on all of these vessels between the first and the third quarter in 2019. So that is the early stage timeline of the Unisea GM module development. So before we show the video, we'll just run quickly through how the DP trials actually are conducted. And critical tests are always witnessed on board by GM or a third-party surveyor. The trials program in the DP module is the same program as in the DP FMEA proving trials or previous annual trial. Only the layout that is different. All the tests are the same. A set of tests which fulfill the requirements as mentioned in a previous slide are given to the crew to complete. And GM verify these tests in the DP module before we attend the vessel. If there are any results or evidence that are not clear, the crew can retest it prior to attendance by GM, or GM can retest or witness this during trials. All evidence and communication from a trial we keep and store in the DP module. This will be presented in the video later. All findings, follow-up by crew, closing process by GM is also done within the DP module and will follow the vessel all the time. So, and this also includes supporting documentation, communication log from the trials, and these are always available, which compared to today where communication and these things might actually be on mail to somebody in a third-party company or a ship owner. So you always have track of all the tests and trials and communication done during the basically whole lifetime of the vessel. So this will enable the GM practitioner to focus on the critical testing during attendance. And this is actually very important because the trials are often long. They can be exhausting for both crew and third parties. So we can have a higher focus at more suitable working hours. We will come back to that as well after the video we are going to see. And also a requirement I've set was that every test that might generate an A finding will be witnessed by a third party or GM. So the crew are not approved to conduct a test that may generate an A finding. That is also very important to point out. Finally, the trials program for coming trials are always available for the crew to prepare and comment. This will also be presented in the video. So now I will hand it over to Dag Leo Emblemsvåg, who is responsible for the video part. Then we'll see the video and some final slides afterward. Thank you. Vær så god, Dag Leo.
Thank you, Kai. I will now give a demonstration of the training and demo module we have within Global Maritime. If you see any content within it, it's only for presentation only and not necessarily according to rules and guidelines. Okay, this is the first page that you will see in when you open the DP module. You have a list of vessels that's in your company. At this point there is 5 vessels, and for each vessel you will see if there is any open findings. You will have the latest revision of your DP FMEA date. You have the anniversary date, and from the anniversary date you will have when the next survey window or when you can start preparing for DP trials, the ±3 months window. And you have when the latest DP trials was done, if it's annual or 5-yearly. You can sort the views as you see fit. and depending on how many vessels you have, you can, if you have many vessels, you can sort it and categorize them as according to how your company is laid up. And if there is any business segments, we can set that up as well. The DP module in general will be tailor-made for each client, for what it should consist of, how it's being managed, and who should manage it. And so it's not necessarily a tool that GM sits and control, but it's a tool for the management to assist them in the day-to-day operations. I will go through all the 5 subjects on top here. It's DP verification, DP documents, operational support documents, DP rules and guidance, and DP incidents. DP verification is the section where we do have the DP trials program before we completing the trials program, and we also verify finding and follow up, and also our archive. I will go through this one just after I'm done with the smaller parts of this module, the DP documents and the others. So moving into DP documents, it is made up as a sort of a file structure where we have categorized in MINE type and subtype, where you have all your completed documents. If it's an annual DP trials documents, the FMEAs and the capability plots, your operations manuals, and whatever it will be suited for your company or what you think it should consist of. And you can sort it by the main type, or you can also sort it by who it applies to. So for this instance, you can go in on each individual vessel, and you can look at the documents for them specifically. You can of course also search within the whole document structure to find key information. Whenever you're done with the DP trial, you need to replace a document with a different revision. You don't delete it, but we retire the document into this section where you have all the previous versions and these kind of things, that so you will not lose it from your management system. I will give you a short demonstration of how you upload a document, as this is available for both from GM side and from the management side, and depending on what kind of document it is, it can be done solely from either party. So we're having just writing the title of document, and the important thing is you choose where you would like to who should have access to a document. If it's just a management information, it can be a vessel specific one, it can be a type of vessels. That's all up to management. We predefine along with management the type of documents that we would like or we allow any user to upload. So if we choose the DP FMEA, we also have different subcategories, and we can here upload the original DP proving trials. And then you have the description. So if this is the class approved proving trial, so you can just add a comment on this one. And then you upload the document. Just upload the document from your computer. The same approach to upload a document will be the same functions for operation support documents and DP rules and guidance. Moving over to operational support documents, we made this for a tool to maintain and create operations documents, as typical the ASOG, the CAMO, TAM, and where you can store them, you can develop them. And in addition, we're trying to give the examples of good ASOGs that the crew can or management can adapt into their situation, and also give the guidance that's needed to both to develop them and to maintain them in the future for other projects and activities. And the same applies to this to operation support documents. It's by type, or it can be applied to. So especially for Norwegian player, it's or to Norwegian captain, if there is a diving specific operation guidelines that they should have and the other one doesn't need, these can be specific to some of the vessels, and so we don't have everything available for everyone. It gets a lot of visual noise to the whole module. Moving over to DP rules and guidance, same build-up as the two others, and the idea here is to minimize or to gain easy access to the rules and guidance that are important for the different areas. So we have seen, especially as a third company, we've seen the enormous amount of guidance that's out there, and we would like to minimize it and make sure that the most important rules and guidance are available for management and crew. As an example, we can go into the dynamic positioning, and you can go to DP trials. You can find the IMCA 190, and you will have the guideline uploaded, and we make a small revision change for when there is a small description of what's the change in the various revisions. And so everyone doesn't need to go in and study where is the change and what's the change and what the importance of it will be. Okay, then we move back over to DP incidents. This is a blank space, and will mostly be that when GM has it active with a client, as this is linked up to the HSE module for Unicy. Whenever there is a DP incident of one of the vessels in the fleet, they register that report in the HSE module, and if it's DP related, it will also show up on this side. This is not for any other parties than the management itself, and is purely a tool for them. We're moving back over to DP verification. That is where we're handling the DP trials. There is a number of views that you can go into on the left side. Not all of them will be available, that depending on the solution that's being for the individual company. I'll go through most of them. Draft is where we are producing the DP trials electronically, and then we have the workflow, where will be a management view where you will have all your vessels in the fleet and where the active, ongoing and planned DP trials programs will be. So if you have an DP trial ongoing on one of your vessels, you can go into it and you can get an update on the progress of the DP trials. Also, if there's been a recommendation or finding, then you can see it directly in it, and you can monitor. And also for the vessel crew, where are they according to the plan for performing their side of the trials. I will move back into this one, so we'll go into a DP trials to have a look how it looks like. But we go further down the list here. Then we go moving over to tasks. This is a list for the crew mostly. They can go into. They will see only their vessel, and they will only have their vessel test available. So all of these tests that they will have underneath on this page is tests they can perform before we do the actual DP trials. So going to this list, hit any of these subjects, then we go directly into the program, and you can perform the test, upload the documents needed, and send it off for verification. And as soon as the vessel is completed, it will disappear from this list. So as soon as this list is all cleared, the vessel is ready for the DP trials. When the vessel is completed with that task, it will move over in task awaiting verification. That will be typically here Global Maritime that goes in and verify the results and attachments and complete the task at hand. Next is the finding, where we have all ongoing findings for our company. And the same here, if it's a vessel view, they will only see the findings ongoing from their side. So they are handling and closing the finding from their end. And when they are satisfied with the upload documentation and so on, they complete it, and it will move over to finding complete, where here again, typical Global Maritime will go in and verify the closeout by documentation and statements and so on, and close the finding. And at the end, you will have the complete list of all the findings in a fleet, where you can use it for statistics, and you can sort it by subtype or main category, and you can pull out a lot of additional information from the findings that you can use for other sister vessels and be proactive towards other vessels in your fleet. Last is the archive, where we have all the completed DP trials. Wherever you need to go back to look into it, to see what happened, to see the communication around it, you will have it all in the archive, so it's not lost or gone. Template, it's more like the test library for developing a DP trials. We go back into workflow, and we can go into the ongoing DP trials for Norwegian Eagle. We have, it's quite familiar, a bit of the setup. You have in the report here, and you also have workflow comments. So all the communication back and forward between the vessel and GM and management are trying to be contained within this page, trying to avoid all the phone calls or emails that might disappear in an email account or similar. And it works quite nicely, where you have a comment, you're writing your comment, and you of course put in where you want to direct it, if it's to a person or it's to the group or to all of the vessels, and make sure that we have good communication. And then the other party will get a notification there is a new comment to it. Then we have the normal description, that part of the DP trials, where you have all the change record, summaries, and conduct of trials, and of course where we have a rotational test program, who was attending for the five-year tests, and redundancy setup, and so on. And next section will be the findings. This is where you will find the findings on this year's DP trial, always on top of the trials program. So you can go directly into it and read it and treat it as you see fit. Let's go into DP UPS number 2. That's started on, and it's the same as a normal standard type of DP trials form. You're having the categories, and you're having the 5-yearly rotation schedule on top of it. And if there is any consumers or tags or for the specific components, it will all be added into it, either on top or on the specific steps. So you can notice here it says job card. A job card is the same as an A4 page within a PDF file or similar, and each test is called a step. So this is a test that's marked for auditor, so this is GM, so we have been into it and the result is expected, and you will show up like this. Same below, and here is one that's not started. that I will show you shortly, and we have in one test that's been performed by crew that was a result expected, and Global Maritime has been in after to verify it, and now it shows as verified by auditor. If you go in on this open test, we'll go in and of course perform the trials, and let's say that for this instance this is not as expected, it was something faulty, and we will write our comment. We need to create a finding specific to this step, and you can do that by just create finding, and then you can fill in type, title, description, and auditor, and when then it's completed it can be followed up by vessel crew or management before final closing by GM that only GM has access to. I will show you a complete one shortly. Okay, this is a very short summary of how it works. I will now show you a complete report when it's being exported to a PDF. This is a similar program to what we just were witnessing. So if the only thing you need to do is to press report, and then you choose if you want all your attachments along with the report, or if you want to keep them or not include all of them, as it with the number, the extent of attachment that can be a part of this program, the file size can be quite huge. So this time we choose not to attach them. So this is what you get when you export directly from the DP module. Any official revisions will have a Global Maritime front page and a revision sheet in addition. So it's quite nicely set up, and after all the bread and butter text in top, you will have the findings section like this. And we have made this a quite short summary of the status of the findings at this point. So this is a finding. You're having the title of it. You're having where you can find where the finding was, and if it is open or closed. If you would like to see the full finding with how it's being treated and all the text, it will be in the last section of this PDF. Then we have the job cards for all the tests. And if we move down on the report to where we made a finding, so this is the job card in PDFs, and this is quite similar to what the normal standard of or the example within IMCA 190, where you have the categories and you're having the 5-yearly schedule, the objective setup, and all the consumers. And for each test, it shows green if it's result as expected, and if there's a finding, it will be marked, and of course it will be marked red with result not as expected. We will not have the finding on the specific other than a comment on for information. And then we can move down to the bottom of this PDF, where we have a finding that is completed. You're having a DP UPS endurance failure, and this is the recommendation given by GM. You can choose to use an analyze tool toward the closing of the finding. And there is the workflow section where the responsible, that is the management and crew, will have their normal actions put in and upload any documentations and so on to support the closing of the finding. I signed this with my name, but normally this will be the management or crew. And then we have the GM audit or closing section at the end, where we review it and we close it and sign it by digital signature. And if there was any attachments towards this finding, it will be listed below. Even if we choose not to include all the attachments in the report, we will still have a list of the attachments that are connected to the report. Okay. Then we had a short introduction to the basic functionalities within this module, but there are also other items that are ongoing and ready to be launched from GM. We're having digital DP operations manuals. We had quite a focus on getting this one online, as we see that when we're having this DP management system in place and you have all the supporting documentation that are often a part of a DP operation manual, we can focus on making the DP operation actually operational and not include all kind of attachments to it, and that will cause it to be quite not too user friendly. So the focus is to make an operations manual and focus it purely on operations and how the crew, that is easily usable for the crew. And also that we have to be able to maintain the operations manuals. We see that for many companies there are a lot of DP operations manuals made from different vendors, some from the management and some from others. And to be able to make one consistent DP operation manual throughout a fleet, with maintaining it, with dividing into vessel specific, it can be on special operations, it can be segments, it can be also for fleet. So if there is a fleet policy that's been changed, you change it in one place and then you change it for all the operations manuals within that fleet. So that one is ready to be launched and will be available soon. Another function is digital DP checklist. This is already established by UNICE in a different module called forms and checklists. And having this module, you can also have all your DP and ECR checklists directly accessible through the UNICE DP module. So any more interest in this, please contact us, or of course you can contact UNICE directly as well, and they will give you more information. And also, if you would like, we can give a more in-depth presentation of this module and how it works. Thank you, and then we move back to the slides.
Okay, then we will move on just to see a bit how the system is built and the functionalities, how it will work between shoreside and vessels. It's where you already have a UNICE system on board. It's just a matter of installing this additional module, and that will not be any additional cost other than the normal license fee. But there's also other options that you can use it where you don't already have UNICE on board. One of the reasons for that we went with UNICE was that we wanted to avoid adding another software or hardware on board the vessel that was unfamiliar to the crew. This, of course, is not possible for every vessel, but going with UNICE will be covering quite a lot. And also to get an integrated solution throughout within each individual company. So there are basically three methods of having this one installed on your fleet. Is where there already are UNICE installed on board your vessels. And the other option is to install web servers within the office and the vessels to make sure that we have offline functionalities when performing the trials and so on. And there is also a third option that where we can have it cloud-based, where web service is not an option, but you can use the DP module as purely as a cloud-based and web-based system. Having it offline, it will replicate quickly, and just every 15 minutes, you make sure that you have always have an updated DP trials program or communication within both from the land side and from the vessel side. Okay. The result, what we have seen, we have learned quite a bit. I think we have about between 105 and 110 vessels using the system actively now. And we see that we will reduce the time for the DP trials, and we can probably manage them during normal working hours. So plus minus 10 hours, that depending on how the trials go on, but we can easily do it on less, and we have more complex vessel, it will take some more time. And having the crew involvement in a earlier stage for the DP trials, where I have had the DP trials programs for months or the whole year in advance of the DP trials, during the trials as well, so we see a quite higher involvement and preparedness towards the crew. And of course, when we are on board, we don't need to dig into all the less important tests, and we can have full focus on the tests that are critical to safety on board, and we also get better results. And we have seen now in several times it's fully compliant with 190. We have been challenged quite a few times since we started this one, and we are still in a very good position. Okay, then we'll go over to a Q&A session, or it's actually frequently asked questions. That is quite a normal question we receive having this system. It's a new system, and then there is skepticism throughout the industry at first. But I think we have been, as long as we have presented it to the different stakeholders, we have been accepted by everyone so far. So, Kai, you want to take a few questions, or I can?
Yeah, we can start with the first one with regards to if it is IMCA 190 compliant. As mentioned several times throughout this presentation, one of the main what should I say, requirements was that it had to be IMCA 190 compliant. And we have used section 4.9 in IMCA M190, which talks about which tests that can be conducted by a crew, and most of them we have assigned to the crew. Not necessarily all of them. This will also be a bit dependent on every vessel or the vessel that you are actually creating a trials program for. So we have still not had any issues with IMCA 190. That's we're not saying that we will not meet them, but so far we have managed to answer these requirements quite well. If it's approved by all oil majors, we have yet to not be accepted by an oil major, and this is not only in Norway but also other locations. We have presented it to most of the big ones operating at least in the North Sea, and some of them worldwide. And many of the oil majors have actually said that, well, the system is better than the paper-based because we are keeping all the documentation, paper trail, and everything inside the module. So that's what about that. Are the trials remote? That is a typical question we often get. They are not remote. The crew do one part of the tests, which are in line with IMCA 190. GM attends every single vessel. So we don't regard them as remote trials. The only remote part about it is that we go through the tests the crew have done before we board the vessel, and we go through the test results. So the verification can be done both on board, or it can be done in our office. Then, are we required to use GM? Yes, and partially. We have had some questions from shipping companies who want to use this as their own tool. And basically, what should I say? Solutions can be made, but you will not get a third-party approval if you choose as a ship owner to use it by yourself, and you cannot use another third-party company to conduct the trials or verify them. So GM has invested a lot in this, and of course we want to keep it a GM product. We have a very close collaboration and an exclusive agreement with Unici on using this module. So the final one, do we need to have Unici already installed on our vessels? No, you don't need to have Unici already installed on the vessels. As Dag Leo mentioned, there are several possibilities. There is a possibility of a web-based / cloud-based solution for it as well. So, but so far we have only used it with vessels that have Unici installed. I don't know if you have anything to add on to that, Dag Leo.
No, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
We have also received a few questions from you guys. I have published the questions so you can see them, and we will answer one on each one of them. And I guess we can just start with the first one. I will read out the question as well. Every test could potentially lead to an A finding. Even a simple battery endurance test could fail and not meet the required 30 minutes, breaching both IMCA guidelines and class requirements. Do not see the benefit here for the owner. Our reply is that I'm not sure what you mean with every test can be potentially lead to an I finding, but I'm not sure if I agree if it's we don't sort the test for the crew if they're simple or advanced. It's if they're critical. A battery endurance test is for sure a critical test that could easily lead to an I recommendations. So
I can add on here that there are several tests in the normal test program which cannot generate an A recommendation, and I think we can of course go into the details, but there are several tests that cannot generate an A recommendation, since then you have to be in breach with the redundancy design intent for the vessel, and failure of a pump to an independent system for a component wouldn't necessarily generate an A finding. So this is, and as we said, the test program is tailor-made for each vessel, and every vessel is, all the tests for each vessel are evaluated if the crew can do them or not. And also IMCA M190 basically is what we have to be in line with anyway, and we don't see that there has been any problems with that. So yeah.
No. Moving on, if you can, the top question, does it has to be run only with Unicy? And can it be used with other platform or provider? It cannot, as far as we know, be used on different platforms than Unicy. The platform itself can be provided as only the DP module. You don't necessarily need other modules to run the DP module. So it can be as a standalone as if we had created it purely ourselves and delivered a standalone software. So unfortunately, it has to come along with the Unicy. That's the platform it's being used on. Okay, next question is, how can the reader of the final report, printed hard copy, see which tests were witnessed by the crew and which were not? I believe I showed this within the report. It's very clearly marked, witnessed by auditor. And wherever it says witnessed by auditor, the vessel has done the job and completed the task, and we have been witnessing the results of it after. Normally we do this before we enter for the actual DP trials for the vessel. Next question is a very good question. I believe we answered that one. If the DP trials report are accepted by oil companies, and we have not met anyone who has not accepted it. We had a lot of questions about it, that's for sure, because it's quite a bit a different layout. But going through it, we had several meetings with many oil majors, and they're all they're all very enthusiastic about the system and how we're treating DP assurance. But I won't name any names. We have met with many, and many of the largest ones, but we have not met with everyone yet. Next one. Is there any point to highlight on the system as regards to DP trials performed on rigs and shuttle tankers instead of offshore support vessels, for instance? I'm very happy about that questions. It's made for, even if it's for rigs or shuttle tankers, to be a perfect fit for both rigs and shuttle tankers who has their own method, and some of them have their own method of testing. So even if the demonstration here was for offshore support vessel, it can just as easily be with MODUs or shuttle tankers. And let me see. How many percentage of tests can typically be done by the crew? That's that we are discussing mostly with each management that we are going into this agreement with. It's a little bit what they would like for their own company, but we can, I believe we can say that if up to about 50% we can put onto them. But that does not necessarily mean it's the most time demanding trials tests that will be put to the crew. But for individual tests, I believe we can be around 50%. Anything to add there, Kai?
No, I think you covered it on that one.
Okay, how can you ensure that the crew carried out the test correctly and faithfully? We can only verify it on the basis of the documentation that we ask for. We have made quite specific guidelines towards the crew on what we expect for each test to be delivered for evidence. If it's possible to cheat on delivering some results, maybe it can, but it is. But what we're doing, as long as it's also considering it's not critical tests, and if we are unsure about any test results, we retest them when we are on board.
Yeah, I would like to add something on there, that a lot of the tests that the crew does for themselves are actually things that are part of their planned maintenance system in the first place. So you could also ask the same question about the planned maintenance system, which a surveyor or a vetting or whatever would regard as reliable evidence for that the vessel has followed its maintenance plan, basically. So yes, of course, you will have an element of trust, but our general opinion is that the crew actually takes quite a keen interest into the testing. Yeah, that's basically what we would have to answer on that one.
And the last question we got so far, if the crew carry out the test and recording the test process through video, will that be acceptable? It will for sure be acceptable, but we might need to, don't think we are able to upload videos within the DP module, or at least we can't bring it along with the DP trial support. I think actually we can upload videos, but it won't, it's difficult to bring it on as attachment. So videos is a very good method of proving test results for sure.
Yeah, but I might maybe we could discuss a bit around exactly that question. I'm not sure if Leon, who posted it, actually means that, okay, if they could videotape a whole trial, if that would be sufficient to let the crew do the whole testing. And I guess the answer would be no for that one. But using video as evidence for the crew assigned tests and uploading into Unity, yes, of course, that would be acceptable.
Okay, let me see. There came another. No, I think.
Then there's another question. It's a very interesting one, actually.
I can read it up. Do you see a requirement for moving to a remote trials model, given the issues with travel and restriction due to COVID in the future? This is something we have been dealing with quite a lot lately, and we need to make sure that the assurance is in place. There are interim methods that we can see that can be beneficial towards this situation. How long the travel and restrictions will stay in place, that is quite difficult, but we are looking into different options, and it has to be suited for our clients, and not at least the most important thing is the actual assurance of the vessel. So, but complete remote DP trials with the current systems that's out there, we don't see actually much benefit from. But the world is moving forward, and we for sure believe in the remote trials models at Wellness Systems and the DP systems and PMS system, all of this supporting that method of performing trials. Anything to add? Difficult question. Anything to add, Kai?
No, I don't think so. But for sure, I also believe that remote testing is something that we will see in the future, at least but everything comes down to the data you can get out from it. For now, I think that most vessels would require some level, if not quite a high level of investment in order to be able to provide everything you need to be sure that the test you're doing will be sufficiently reliable. And looking at the shipping market today, where money isn't exactly flourishing, I think that expensive remote, what should I say, live solutions are there's a bit of path left fine there, I think. But in the future, yeah, I think it's inevitable.
We got another question. If one of the tests done by crew was a resulted failure, does it generate recommendation itself? No, not by itself, but the crew is allowed to write a recommendation directly into the system, as they would do for any reports within a QA system. So if they're finding something is failed, they can just press create finding themselves, and they can create a finding. And the finding will, however, be QA'd by GM before any publishing of reports. See. Next question. I got one more. Is it obligatory to install a special server to deal with the module, and the tailor mode obligatory to collaborate with the system? It is a web server that you need to be installed, but it does not require any attendance from other personnel. This is handled everything is handled remotely, and that's been done from the Unici headquarters. Okay.
Should we give just a minute or two to see if there are any new questions that might arise, and then if not, finish this session? So if you have, I could just talk a bit more. If you have any specific questions or things like that, don't hesitate to contact Dagleo or me, and we will more than happily give you a more in-depth presentation or demonstration of it. So there's a new question now. Let's see.
I published it. I can read it aloud. When are tests verified by GM, and what window do the crew have to perform the tests? It is a bit up to what the new M190 is, and they want tests to be done within the ±3 months. So as soon as that window starts, we're starting to discuss and talk to the vessels to get them started and have it done within that window. So these tests are not spread around the full year, but we are trying to keep them within a ±3 months window. Okay. Then I think we are all at an end, and I really appreciate the time you took to listening to us and letting you know about the DP management system. And if you have any other question, you can go to your local Global Maritime office for sure, and we get the information. And of course, you can also call Kai or myself. Okay, thank you very much for attending, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye-bye.